And away we go. It is the BCJ Podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. Make sure you are heading down to see our friends at the Holy Grail anytime you are down near the banks. Reds game. Maybe you're going down on the 16th, May 16th for Bearcats and Brews, Ball and Brews, where you'll get to hang out with Scott Satterfield and Dante Corleone and Luke Kandra. A lot of good stuff, as always, happening down at the banks with our good friends at the Holy Grail. Make sure while you're there, you are getting yourself an ice cold Cincy Light. That Cincy Light purchase, every Cincy Light purchase at the Holy Grail will add an additional 50 cents onto the tab that the Holy Grail sends to Cincy Reigns. So get down there, support the people that are supporting us. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
How you doing today?
I'm good.
Any idea what we're going to talk about?
Not really.
I tell it's wild because between like Fickle and job interest or whatever when he was here, and then Mick leaving, Brandon coming in, Brandon leaving, West coming in, Satterfield coming in. It feels like every summer there has been like a major storyline for us to cover.
Yeah.
Like a lot of unknown, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of stuff. And we don't have any of that this summer.
No, we're kind of like my personal sports summer hell is about to start, and I feel like we are kind of in at least a couple week window. I think this will change as we get closer to the end of the month. We'll have official visits for football. We'll have camps starting to kick up, so there'll be new offers and to potentially 2025 guys and 2026 guys, and there'll always be news coming throughout. But like this little period here in May will be is slow, to say the least, and it'll happen to us again. I don't know. It usually happens in like the beginning of July, but you still have like some basketball, like AAU stuff. Like it's nothing major, but there's at least like these trickle touch points throughout the summer that at least give us something. And right now, like we don't really have anything.
Well, also once we get to June and July, we'll start having the opponent preview series.
Yeah,
we'll have people on to talk about what's coming up in the season. Keegan and I will be on the road doing
Big 12,
basketball
Big 12
stuff,
media days. So yeah.
I mean, there's a lot.
But yeah,
right now there is quite the gap.
I saw Tom Segura Friday night. I could tell you some of the funny jokes or Saturday night from his set, but
you kind of look like Tom.
Hey, I got that. Actually, I saw Andy, Brian's buddy.
Smith.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Walking out, like crossing the street, and he actually mentioned that, and I was like, I'm not exactly aiming for it, but I shaved. I shaved a few weeks ago, and then let it just have kind of let it come back. So,
Tom, like 3-4 years ago, like not skinny Tom. Tom's skinny now.
He cuts it like much tighter now.
I'm not sure how, but I completely missed that he was in town until like the day of, and I saw it and I was like, son of a bitch.
I bought tickets in November and forgot about it until about 2 weeks ago. I saw an old email in my inbox and I was like, oh yeah, when is that? And I was like, oh shit, it's like early May.
That's funny. The big news of the day, Dave. Partnership, Bearcat Journal, Cincy Reigns, UC Athletics, 513 day on Monday. We will be live right here on this very channel, youtube.com/Bearcat Journal. If you're listening in a podcast feed. But we will be live here Monday, 513, May 13th, from, like I said, from noon to 10 p.m. We have already confirmed John Cunningham. We have already confirmed Scott Satterfield. We have already confirmed Wes Miller. We have already confirmed a few I haven't put on the internet yet. Molly Alvey will be joining us. Brian Fox from Cincy Reigns will be joining us. We will have multiple student athletes from live inside the Linder Center that will be popping on to join us. The goal is to get 513 new subscribers for Cincy Reigns on Monday. They have a plethora of price points: $5.13 a month, $51.30 a month, $513 a month, and of course, and if you're willing to sponsor at this level, also show up in my DMs, and we'll get you a sponsorship for a spot here on the BCJ network as well. But then $5,130 as well. So we will be very busy on Monday, but I'm excited, Dave. We have done something similar once before when we first built this YouTube channel, and it was very successful. We had a great day. I think we actually that day went from noon to 3 a.m. I do not anticipate that being the case this time, but
No.
You never know with us. You know me.
I'm certainly not going to be doing that.
You know me. If we got a bunch of people in the room and people are hanging and kicking it, I will keep going.
I know.
Everybody else might leave.
I have a couple calls in the early to mid-afternoon. I will try to jump on here and there when I can. So, give whoever is going full stream, so to speak, maybe a little bit of a break, a chance to get something to eat or catch their breath. Who knows what? But
yeah, that was the hardest part. The first time was we didn't really plan out a lot of. We didn't have a great substitution pattern, so I think Aaron and I were pretty much just live for 15 hours.
Yeah, I think you were.
It'll be nice to maybe like, hey, I'll see you guys in 15 minutes. Yeah. Like I'm taking a time out. I'll be back in 15. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, we got a little bit more in the bullpen now. I mean, you got Brent, you got Keegan. So
Royer's gonna join us probably for his normal BDP time slot.
Yeah.
Can we get Dan Horde? I mean, we could maybe work on that. I'm sorry, Dave. I was busy talking.
Hey, we're trying to run a business here.
I know. I'm talking about our big event.
I'm hoping you can get Coach Martin.
That is a part of the plan. Yes,
potentially. I'll tell you what. Hopefully, he could join when I'm not on a call. And I might be able to jump on and ask him a few questions. But no, it should be a lot of fun. It we are very, very grateful that we are given the opportunity to have coaches, players, athletic department staff on this platform. I think that is one of, if not my favorite things that separate us from a lot of other forums, is the connections that we've built over the years and the willingness for them to come on. And, because let's be honest, they help draw an audience. People want to hear from them. And so it's very nice that regardless of who the coaches are at the time and who the administration is at the time, that they've been open and willing and understanding of where we are in the landscape and the market that we command and how it can benefit us, obviously, but them as well. And in this case, also Cincy Reigns. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I always look forward to hearing from our coaches and getting the chance to talk to them, because I think we at least I try to with when I talk to the football guys specifically, like I try to think of questions that the fan wants to know that the general media, like not you, not Keegan, but like the general media isn't asking at a Tuesday game week press conference.
Yeah.
Like I like to get more into the weeds of football and like talking the game, or when we talked to Zach Grant, like more than just talk to me about this guy. Like I don't like that. Like I want more in-depth conversation. I want to know your philosophies. I want to know why you guys are doing things the way you're doing, things of that nature. So I think that's part of the reason it's been great that they've allowed their different people to come on and join us. And we're always cordial, and we're never going to ask, we're not going to probably delight every fan because they want us to ask some hard questions. And I would like to ask some hard questions at times, but we also have to understand that we are not traditional legacy media. And if we start trying to push the limits of some things that we're asking, we can just be told very quickly, like, you're not having these people on anymore, or, you're not coming to press conference. Like, it's not just carte blanche that we get to do whatever we want to do.
Right. And, we're not going to make everybody happy.
It is a balancing act of, how we go about things, but should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can fly past 513 members and or new whatever, however I don't know what they call them, but new subscribers, and help generate a bunch of money for UC athletes.
I mean, look, they come to us because we have the most eyes on us, whether it be social media, whether it be the message board, whether it be random Discord servers on the internet. Hi to all my new friends from today. How you doing?
I don't know anything about that. Like I mean, seriously, like I couldn't tell you one thing about Discord, Twitch. Like I am as old school as a 42-year-old can get. No idea.
Look, I live and work on the internet. Like you have to understand.
I'm pretty sure the last time I played a video game was like sophomore year of college, when we all just played SSX Tricky until 5 o'clock in the morning all the time. So yeah, I'm way out on that stuff.
Well, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a full day. It's gonna be very exciting content and a lot of great guests and a lot of talking about UC athletics and giving you guys something fun to do on 513 day while we hang out and work.
Are we allowed to say, do we know any of the athletes yet? Are we allowed to say that? Is that going to be just a surprise?
We're still
a work in progress.
Still a work in progress. I'm pretty sure we'll have I'm pretty sure Luke Kandra will join us.
Okay.
There's been maybe a mention of Dante Corleone, but I don't have that solidified yet. But a lot of the Cincy Reigns athletes, I think there's a pretty good chance we will see them joining us and discussing the virtues of what Cincy Reigns has kind of been able to do for them and help them out with in their time here.
This will be a good way to, like, I was just thinking of talking to the athletes. You could ask them, like, what is a company that in a Cincinnati company that you would want to do a deal
NIL deal with, yeah.
And maybe then that's a good way to, like, maybe someone from the company is paying attention, or then they can take that back to the Cincy Reigns people and say, look, he's blowing you up on this this Twitter feed and this YouTube chat. You should probably do something with the guy.
Right. Let's go. I don't think, I guess we could timestamp that, but I don't think we necessarily need to timestamp that part of it. But yeah, I'm excited. We'll see everybody there. Like I said, Monday, noon sharp, So right at the start of your lunch break, and then you can waste away the rest of your workday with us. Maybe plan ahead, take a half day, go home, sit on the couch, and watch 10 hours of UC content, unlike anywhere else is able to provide. And we'll have lots of fun with it. The other big news for today, couple things today, Dave. 4-star shooting guard out of Indiana, plays for Indiana Elite, Braylon Mullins, who is a 4-star, right in that 75 to 100 range. But I get a feeling that there's a good chance that changes based on who it sounds like is starting to kick the tires on old Braylon Mullins.
Yeah,
he was on campus this morning for an unofficial visit. I put on the board a picture of him and Connor Hickman, who both played for Indiana Elite, which their coach at Indiana Elite is Mark Adams, the father of Drew Adams. So there's a connection there. But 6'5", you could see he's a couple inches taller than Hickman. 6'5", excellent shooter. And guys with that kind of height and shooting ability are going to be very popular on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, it seems like at least one team that's had some relative success the last couple of years is starting to potentially be interested in him. And so hopefully the visit went well. Connections, it's kind of that way in every walk of life. I mean, who you know. So hopefully that plays a role in this, and we'll see what happens down the road. I feel like that's, as you said, if his recruitment is only getting more and more crowded, then we're probably not necessarily close to it coming to fruition.
Well, the two names that most recently have started to kick the tires are just UConn and Duke.
That's it.
Yeah. So,
no big deal.
Yeah. Just standard random run-of-the-mill stuff for Braylon Mullins. But that's how good of a start to the spring he has had. And then teams will obviously be out on the road not this weekend, but next weekend.
Did he grow up?
Look at all these guys.
Did he grow up an Indiana fan?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah,
it's from Indiana. They all grow up Indiana fans at some point, Dave. But guess what? Connor Hickman grew up an Indiana fan too.
That's my point.
Well, they hate Duke, right? Duke has done that to them multiple times on kids from Indiana. The entire Plumlee family was from Indiana.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
That were Indiana fans, and Duke just came in and snatched them. So, But good to get him on campus now, get him a look at the facility, get him a look at, sitting down with the coaching staff and seeing what kind of plan they have for him. There's probably going to be a lot of spots open in 2025.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we kind of covered that, last week?
Yeah, just a shot in the dark. But there's probably going to be a lot of opportunities for playing time.
Yep.
In that 2025 class. So, so people asking, what's that mean for Davion Hannah? Look, they're in so deep on Davion Hannah, they're never backing out of that one. If you can get both of those guys, you go get both of those guys. They both can shoot. They both got size. They both got high basketball IQ. You can't get enough of those in your backcourt.
No, absolutely not.
Especially if Connor Hickman and CJ Frederick are both gone and Jizzle James or Day Thomas exhausts his eligibility. At that point, you're going to need a backcourt makeover. So that's the news on Braylon Mullins. The other news is Texas transfer Dylan Mitchell is on campus for a visit. He is got here this afternoon, late afternoon, and will be here through some point tomorrow, getting the old Grand Tour. So, what are your thoughts on Dylan Mitchell, Dave?
I'm for adding him. Is that is that good
That's
enough?
really going out on a limb.
Yeah, I mean, he fits what I've been talking about wanting for a couple years. I mean, I either want, knockdown shooters or the uber athletic wing type guys that have the profiles of the best athlete, best players in the best conferences, and I think he certainly has that. I'm not as not as familiar with his overall. I mean, I remember specifically when they played at UC, he did a lot of damage in transition getting to the rim.
Yes, good at that. Very good at that.
So, and if you do want to play a little bit faster, I feel like he would help you do that. I think he would be a good wing guy to have with the pieces that you already have. I mean, I think it would be a very formidable group when you have Day, Jizzle, Dan, and him, pushing the ball on a consistent basis. I think that would be a lot of fun and could be advantageous.
Yes, I also think, I mean, here's the main thing for me, Dave. What are through, 3 seasons, what are the kind of the mainstays in what Wes Miller always talks about?
Well,
defense and rebounding.
Defense and rebounding.
If you put, and yes, I understand it would create some issues with spacing, having a guy like Mitchell on the floor with Aziz, because Mitchell doesn't shoot threes, or at least he hasn't to this point in his career. We don't know. I mean, I would assume he's not a great three-point shooter because he hasn't shot them, but he just doesn't take them. Yes, that would create some spacing issues, but you would be hard-pressed to find a team in the country that could put 3 guys on the court that could rebound at the level that Aziz Bandaogo, Dylan Mitchell, and Dan Skillings rebound.
Right.
And Mitchell is an excellent defender. Can guard the 3, can guard the 4. And if you really need him to, can guard a smaller 5. I don't think you want him on, a big bruising center. But because of his athletic ability, could probably steal you some minutes there, guarding some of the 5s in this league at least. So I think you have to look at it from that perspective. I don't think there are a lot of guys on this roster who at the top of the list check off defense and rebounding. I think they've gone a little bit more towards skill, which is something we've talked about. I think year after year one in this league, I think skill has to be prioritized because it's a lot more skilled than the last time. And that's not to say that there wasn't skill in the Big East, but there was a lot of defense and rebounding in the Big East. Like, that was a beat you up, wear you down, physical league.
Yeah.
And while the Big 12 has some of that, there's a lot of skill in this league too.
Yeah, there was individual skill in the Big East, but who were the teams outside of like Notre Dame that really cut you up with player movement, ball movement, ever flowing motion offenses, stuff like that? I mean, that wasn't the calling card of those teams. And
now, the funny part is Villanova got there, but it wasn't until the Big East fell apart.
Right. It was later. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you would have, arguably 3 of the top 10 defenders in the conference, and you have one at basically each level, on the ball, on the wing, in the post. I mean,
right.
Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I mean, on the ball, Day,
Right.
is one of the best in the league, and then Mitchell would be one of the best in the league, and then Aziz is in terms of rim protection,
Yeah.
might be the best in the league next year.
Right. So, I mean, I think this to me screams to the luxury of what Wes and everybody was able to do in bringing back all your core pieces, where you can take a guy that maybe isn't the offensive threat, but really helps you in two other key areas that are also vastly important. And now, how does that all fit in? I have no idea. That's not our job. That's not our job to figure
Right.
out. But just playing, general manager, armchair free agent acquisition guy, it's like, yeah, heck yeah, I'd be all about adding another super athletic dude that makes this team an even better rebounding team, makes this team an even better defensive team, because I feel confident in the other pieces, either the addition of Connor Hickman or the just natural hopeful growth of Dan and Jizzle, probably more so than anybody else because they are younger and still have more room to grow. But like even Simas, who will be an older player, like, is he going to shoot it as good as he did the last however many games? Probably not. But can we get him to not shoot it as bad as he did for the first however many games? Like
there's one key component there, Dave.
Yes.
Can he play Frogger better at the start of the 24-25 season so that he doesn't get hit by a car?
Well, yeah, that's true too. Yeah, and there's no talent. I mean, we don't know how long any potential lingering effects of that. I mean, he just got so hot at the end versus being like so cold at the beginning, kind of midway point of the Big 12 season. Like, if he can just be, an average of that throughout the whole season, and then you have the potential incremental improvements from Dan and Jizzle, and I'm sure. I mean, Day-Day's shot is not a bad shot. Like, I think he could.
Oh, it's great from the free throw line.
I think he could see some improvement as well. So like, you don't necessarily need Dylan Mitchell to. You don't need not even Dylan. You don't need another guy to be like, oh, we need another 35, 36% 3-point shooter. Because you feel pretty good with everything else that you got, and now you're trying to get more athletic, longer, better defensively, better on the glass. Especially, Dan is a great offensive rebounder because he rebounds out of his position very well. I don't know Dylan's game close enough to come. I mean, I think that's
he's an incredible offensive rebounder.
See, that's the thing that I think would make me like it even more is that we've talked about, you guys talked about on the BBP, like they got a lot of offensive rebounds and not a lot of second chance points. But when you have, and I think part of that can be enhanced because when you have bouncy guys, like he can get an offensive rebound and go right back up, where a lot of times it felt like we got an offensive rebound and either tried to go back up and it wasn't there, or we got an offensive rebound and then had to kick it out. And the reason you didn't get a lot of second chance points is because they weren't making a lot of putback layups and putback dunks. They were just running more offense and missing shots from the floor.
One of the most effective parts of offensive rebounding, getting the rebound and throwing it to a guy that's standing wide open at the 3-point line, and he makes the shot. There weren't a lot of he makes the shot. That's what I mean.
We were either just missing shots. We weren't missing layups and dunks because we were athletic and bouncy and everything. We were missing shots that were either a kick out like that or having to run through the offense all over again.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, Mitchell's going to be interesting. You're talking about he's already visited St. John's. He's already visited Miami of Florida. Those two things tell me NIL is a factor, and
Yeah.
you expect it to be. I've also heard that North Carolina is starting to get involved a little bit. That doesn't make me feel great. You never like seeing a blue blood jump in, especially on a 5-star or a former 5-star that I think I saw he played 72 games for Texas. He started 71 of them. Like, that's in the Big 12. That's experience at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
So he did play for Florida Rebels in AAU, which, the Jizzle connection there. Steve Reese, the coach of Florida Rebels, and his ties to Cincinnati that we've talked about a bunch. Steve Reese has been on this network. So, there are some connections, and Wes and staff are going to have through the day tomorrow. I think they're leaving tomorrow, like evening, but I'm not sure on that.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing with Sean Stewart. Like, these are the swings we want to see them taking, with the understanding that these are the swings that potentially don't work out because they're hotly contested. Like, I don't want them going after dudes that are like being looked at by AAC teams and whatever. Like, is it harder? Yeah, but that's what we want.
Right.
I want impact guys. And these are the swings you can take when you return the nucleus of your team.
Right. And you're going into a year that's critical. You can sell a guy on, hey, there's going to be competition for minutes here, but guess what? We're also in position to do a ton of winning.
I would be interested to know why these guys are leaving Texas.
I don't know. I mean,
they didn't strike me as a very tough team.
I mean, I don't think. I think they got put in a bad situation. I think they were, they had the situation with Beard that he would have been. I think he could have won national championships there. I think he's that good as a coach.
Yeah,
a little bit of a slime ball. Yeah, but whatever. But Rodney Terry then goes to the Elite Eight, and that puts them in a situation where they have to retain Rodney Terry.
Yeah,
which I don't know that was the best move for Texas. Like, if you're rating Big 12 coaches, where does Rodney Terry come in?
They've had multiple guys transfer out, right?
Yeah. Well, and Asmus was done, and I think Disu was done, right? Like, I don't even know. They're leaving.
Disu can come back, but he's probably gonna go to the draft, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're leaving, so I haven't really kept much of an eye on Texas. I guess they did get Jordan Pope from Oregon State.
Yeah, they did.
So it's Texas. They're going to be fine. They're going to be okay. But I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a team that had more than enough talent to do like some serious damage last year.
Well, maybe they would have if they didn't run into all-world Dalton Connect. I mean, maybe they could have. And he actually had a terrible game and cost me a shit ton of money. So, but the Vols still won. So,
I mean, you're not wrong there, Reed. His coach cried about horns down so much, I'd leave too. I don't understand that at all.
This totally has nothing to do with UC, but like, do those folks not realize what's coming for them next year?
You
got upset when UC and UCF gave you horns down? Like, what the hell do you think is going to happen when you go into Bryant-Denny and Sanford Stadium and Neyland Stadium? Like, come on.
And you're not like the overlord of the conference where like the conference was punishing people. Can you imagine if they go to the SEC and they're like, you need to fine them for doing horns down? And the SEC is going to be like,
double birds, baby.
How about horns up? How about that?
Up your ass. Yeah, not happening.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of where things are right now with Dylan Mitchell. They'll get their chance, and then kind of a waiting pattern to see does he go into decision mode? Does he still want to explore the process? Because he's technically he's technically in the draft process.
Right.
So he has a while before he, the rest of the month basically before he has to pull out of that. So he doesn't have to be in any type of like hurry in making this decision. So, and that said, if they don't get him, they're not packing it up. They're still going to be active. I still think, there's a couple big swings that could be still on the table, especially once we get to, there was 170 guys that declared for the draft, and there's 62 spots or whatever it is.
Wait, how many? 170 guys declared for the draft?
Underclassmen.
Well, they saw how terrible this draft is.
Everybody's taking their swing. Yeah, of course. So that part
I saw some mock draft. Yeah, I just looked at some goofy mock draft the other day, and like the top 15, I was like, I don't even know who half these guys are.
I've never seen any of these people play. Who? From where?
Some dude from Colorado is like a lock lottery pick who I don't. He could knock on my door tonight. I'd be like, "What's up, buddy? I have no idea who you are."
I know exactly who you're talking about. He's pretty good, but he's so good that I don't remember his name.
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
Right. Yeah, it's not. It does not seem to be a sterling year to have a top pick.
Yeah. This is a year you're trying to trade out as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yes, Matt, coaches can be on the road next week for AAU. It is their only weekend that they are allowed out. There's actually, if you want to watch slightly above average AAU basketball, the Under Armour tour is in Hamilton at Spooky Nook next weekend. I will be in Indianapolis for EYBL. What can you do? But
you go watch the players that you need to watch, and if none of them happen to be in Hamilton, then you go to.
Well, there's a bunch of Adidas this year that I think, between 25 and 26. So I'll probably be going to an Adidas event in July. But the plan is we're going to go to Indianapolis next weekend. And then at the end of the month, we will be going to Kansas City for the last EYBL of the spring. So Keegan's already been to Atlanta, and then we'll have Indianapolis and Kansas City. So we'll get 3 stops on the Nike circuit, and then at least one where I'll be down in Rock Hill, South Carolina, home of one of the best cheesesteaks I've ever had. That's why I'm going back down there. I can stop in Asheville, get Biscuit Head, and then go to Rock Hill and get my cheesesteak fix. So one of those things from the South. They have those individual clear bottle like containers that they put sweet tea in, like from a gallon. They just pour you a giant sweet tea. It was very good. I think they put crack in it. I'm not sure. That's really all I've got on the basketball, on the transfer portal, recruiting front on basketball. Any other questions you got there?
For hoops?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I don't really either. Don't really either. That's going to bring us to our first timestamp of the night, maybe our last. I don't know. I don't know how long this thing is going to go, Dave. There's not a lot to talk about.
No.
It's brought to you by Turtles Brew. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, bourbon-infused sweet tea, 6% ABV. They have it in lemonade tea, strawberry mint, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla, They also now come in 12-ounce pouches. I say patches every time.
Yeah, you
pouches.
just hook it up like your nicotine patch. It just you get a slow drip of turtles brew into your bloodstream.
12-ounce pouches. You can buy them individually or in 5-packs. Go to turtlesbrew.com. They will let you know right there where they can be found and any other information that you might need. Turtlesbrew.com, and a portion of the proceeds go to Save the Sea Turtles. Little Boston accent. Patches. Football. There's not a lot on the UC football front right now. We are, I think, 2 weeks away from visits really starting to get cranked up.
They don't start until that 31st weekend of the 30th, 31st, 1st. Because the weekend before is Memorial Day weekend, so I doubt they're doing visits that weekend.
Right.
So
I do think there's still some irons in the fire on the transfer portal.
Oh, definitely. There's still
a couple
how many
spots open.
1,000 kids out there. I mean, I'm sure they're not done, but yeah.
For the most part, I think they've done the heavy lifting that they were looking for. Added an offensive lineman, added a couple defensive linemen. I still think they'd like to maybe try to make a splash at corner, or at least get a guy that they think can compete for a starting spot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Dennis Dodd, Dave, did an article this week that essentially was talking about the Oregon State, Washington State deal, where they're kind of left in the lurch. They are swimming upstream without a paddle right now. And look, that's my reaction whenever I see an article talking about those two schools and their plight. I was thankful that he kind of went back and retraced the path of all the teams that have been through something similar as power conferences or long before that, like the Southwest, the SWAC, or what was the SWAC?
The SWAC. I don't know. But yeah,
whatever that had Arkansas and TCU.
Yeah, that was their Big Eight.
Big Eight, and then the Big Eight, and then that other conference kind of merged, and like TCU got left behind. And TCU found their way out of the wilderness. Cincinnati is really, I think those are the only two that have successfully done it, right, Dave? Where they had a seat at the big boy table. That seat was taken away, and then they managed to navigate their way back. I mean, I guess SMU counts now. Do we have to count them?
I mean, we don't have to do anything.
They're technically in the ACC.
Well, I mean, what are they? They haven't played any ACC sports yet, and you mentioned earlier to me that some people think that the ACC might implode before SMU plays an ACC sport.
I think here's the difference, though, Dave, and we've talked about this some at various times. Even if something happens to the ACC, I don't think it's going anywhere, because I don't think there's enough room to disperse the ACC, like we saw with the Pac-12. Like 10 teams got gobbled up, and all of a sudden, like, the music stopped and there were 2 teams without a chair.
Right. They'd be like 8 teams gobbled up or 10 teams gobbled up, but there'd still be
that many.
There'd still, but even if it was, there'd still be 6. And so then you.
No, they have like 20 now.
Well, yeah, I mean, with SMU, Stanford, Cal, yeah. So
18 might be at 18. Is that what it is?
I have no. Like honestly, I don't know.
I think it's 18. Whatever. You get the
18 and a half of Notre Dame.
If 7 teams go away, they still have a 10-team league. Like I don't think the ACC is going away. But the SMU deal, I have a hard time convincing myself that we continue to call that a, like, the ACC was like, no, we're good.
Yeah, they didn't want them until SMU said, well, we'll just pay for it all.
Right. Like the ACC was like, no, we're not interested. And they were like, well, we'll come for free.
It's like, do you want this pizza? No, I already ate. Well, it's free. Okay, I'll figure out a time to eat it.
We'll get to the pizza eventually. So yeah, it's interesting to look at, but I do think it's important. Like I say, like it annoyed me because you saw so much when all of this stuff was happening. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen to Oregon State and Washington State? Nobody gave a shit when the Big East fell apart in Cincinnati and they had to start the American Athletic Conference. Nobody cried any tears for those teams that got left out.
No.
They didn't care.
I don't care.
I do think it is. I think it speaks a ton to this athletic department. The type of resiliency they did show to not end up like USF, right? Like USF had a taste of success. Look, USF at one time was ranked number 2 in the country. Like they didn't carry through with the momentum that they had built a little bit, but they had a seat at the table. That seat got pulled out from under them, and it's happened to Temple twice. Like it's actually far more likely that you're basically never to be heard from again than you go to a college football playoff and a Sugar Bowl or a Peach Bowl in back-to-back years. Like, yeah. I don't think we give enough consideration. I don't think we give enough love to the fact that what they did is damn near impossible.
Well, yeah, because most of the time when that happens, it also coincides with good coaches leaving because they see the potential downward trajectory when you're basically getting kicked out of a good a quote air quotes good conference for a bad conference. And I'm not saying that's the case all the time, but like UC is honestly, call it luck, call it foresight, whatever you want to call it. Like to have Mick already in place and have him as a Cincinnati guy, and then to hire Luke, that's a huge reason why they were able to in the 2 major sports to stay where they were and even elevate themselves, because most of the time your good coach is leaving, and now I'm trying to find a coach now who is willing to come to our downgraded situation, and those candidates I'm having to take more of a chance on because they're probably assistants or they've only been head coaches at even smaller schools. And so now I'm hoping that the success that they had that smaller school will carry over to a slightly bigger one, but not one that is at whether it's football P5, whether it's basketball, all those terms that we hate using.
No, we love using them now because we're in.
Right. But I mean, I think having two coaches like that is a rarity and is a major catalyst for how they were able to weather all of the other, obstacles, whether it was loss in revenue, loss in rivalries, loss in television, loss in just national relevancy. They thrived in it, and frankly, even like went above and beyond, especially in football's case, like what anyone would expect.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the beauty of all that was, Dave, that at some point it got to a place where like they couldn't tell Luke no to anything. Right? Like whatever his vision was accelerated exponentially because they won, and they won big, and they won huge.
And I know we can talk about tournament misses and whatnot, but like basketball and football were playing at a level that it didn't really matter what the conference really didn't affect them. It maybe affected basketball a little bit with like seeding and the pressure of having to win all the time, or like you couldn't take a bad loss because but like they played above that line of it really didn't matter to what conference they were in, where every other time this has happened, it's had a drastic impact to the other teams. I mean, just look at UConn. And we joked about like the American isn't the reason that they were thinking in basketball, but I think it's very fair at this point to say that it was certainly a reason, not the reason. Like a lot of them wanted to paint it, a lot of their fans wanted to paint it, but I mean, it was certainly a reason. And now you hire a really good coach, and you're back in your conference, and you see what happened.
Yeah, I mean, people said I was crazy for talking about how much of a deterrence the AAC was to recruiting. And now look how much different it is in the Big 12, especially for basketball.
Yeah, I would say for basketball, a lot more than football.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is in the Big 12, everybody is pretty much at the level UC is at recruiting.
Right. There's not
a lot of separation.
Well, and that's the thing too with football. Like, there wasn't as big of a gap that was truly attainable to where football recruiting was in the AAC and where we want it to be in the Big 12. Like, we obviously want it to be better. We always are striving for it to be better. But the gap wasn't there. The gap from like what you could get done in the AAC in basketball to what you can potentially get done in the Big 12 is much wider. Like the variance is far greater than it is for football. I mean, we're talking like, to use the 24/7 stuff, like we're talking like we've had average classes in the 85, 86, 80, pushing 87, maybe just over 87 range, and we're hoping to now have classes in like 88, 89 range. I mean, that's like very, very minuscule compared to AAC basketball. Like, you're recruiting, we used to be talking about like top 100 kids and like top
100 kid every class, essentially.
One like top 100 to one, and then maybe 125 kid. Now we're talking about like, could you get at least one top 50? And then we'll just use this class as an example because it just came out. They 24/7 finalized their 2024 rankings. Tyler Betsy finished at 46. Tyler McKinley finished at 78. Like, those guys, unless there was a connection like a Tyler McKinley, those guys were not attainable to UC when they were in the AAC.
Right. And guess what? That puts you in the middle of the pack in this league.
Right.
I mean, what? ESPN had 4 of their top 5 teams were Big 12 teams in their latest release.
For like recruiting?
No.
Team rankings. Like 2 early top 25s or whatever.
Right. Kansas, Baylor,
Iowa State,
and
Houston.
Iowa State. Yeah. And then Arizona in the right around the top 10. And then I think Cincinnati was 6th in the 20s.
Yeah.
So it's a different world. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. I don't know how long. I think they did everything they could and got in at about the last minute that they could get in. Because I don't know how much all of this is sustainable if you went through this next round and you were out. Like, if you're on the outside looking in now, with the way things are so quickly trending towards like the Big 12 and the SEC, or the Big 10 and the SEC.
Well, yeah, like where are the spots now?
Yeah, and there is no money if you don't have a spot.
I mean, the spots now are only if something bad happens to another conference.
Right.
Like we talked about with the ACC. Like the Big 12 is not adding any teams that are not in the ACC.
Right.
So the only way you're getting into one of these, we'll call it 4 conferences or whatever, is a diluted version of the ACC because something bad happened.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, if we were Memphis or USF,
you're stuck.
Like you're praying something bad happens to the ACC, and you're happy to like join a downgraded version because it's still better, but it's not like it's good. If something were to happen, there would be a massive line of demarcation between the Big 12, SEC, and Big 10, and there's even a massive line. There'd be like 4 levels. There'd be SEC, Big 10, then there'd be the Big 12. Then there'd be whatever you call the ACC, and then there'd be Group of 5, whatever you want to call that group. There truly would be like 4 levels inside of one sport. We're just calling it football, like four levels inside of major college football. But there's 4 levels in it, so
right. It's crazy that they made it out alive. Honestly, it is. It's unlikely. Like I don't think there's enough appreciation in the fan base for how unlikely it is that things broke the way that they did. That Luke won so much that they had to find a new answer for an indoor practice facility. Because guess what? If those teams were cruising along at 7-5, 8-4, 9-3,
even 10-2.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it still would have happened because the brand carries some weight, and you're in a bigger city comparatively speaking to most of where the rest of the Big 12 is in. But I'm sure the conversations would have been a lot harder. It wouldn't have been as obvious, as I think there would have been a lot more fighting, a lot more politicking of a Memphis having more of a say, of a South Florida potentially having more of a say, of an SMU. Like they made it, they did what we asked teams to do. Like, leave no doubt.
Right.
Like it is still the picture on our, I finally unpinned the picture of the flag at midfield when they won, but the background of the Twitter account is still like the bracket. They were the talk of the sport. Little old Cincinnati from the AAC was the talk of the sport. There was no way that when this happened that they were not getting invited. If they weren't the talk of the sport, who knows what happens? Money gets involved, relationships get involved, politics get involved.
Well, it's also as simple, Dave, as they looked at Cincinnati the last time and said they're not ready.
Right.
They're not ready. They don't have the infrastructure.
When they took West Virginia and when Louisville went to the ACC.
Yeah. Cincinnati's not ready. Their basketball arena needs work. Their football stadium needs work. Their athletic facilities are not Power 5 level. And until they do those things, they're going to be on the outside looking in. And, kudos to the people that said, all right, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to redo Nippert Stadium. We're going to gut Fifth Third Arena to the studs. We're going to continue to make this push upward. And if we get left out, boy, the debt would have been crippling. Like that's what nobody wants to talk about. They would have continued if they would have gotten left out and not had the windfall that's not only going to be the Big 12 TV contract, but interest and like butts in seats and the revenue that comes with being relevant. This thing would have gone bad. And as somebody that owns a business that is centered around all of this, I was acutely aware of where it was headed if they didn't, find the life raft.
We made it a joke about how we didn't want to talk about those teams anymore. But imagine if you had to, and you weren't going 12-0, and you weren't winning the conference basketball tournament, like we'd have been talking to ourselves a lot.
Yeah, because guess what? Nobody wants to listen. They want to listen a lot more when we're talking about what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
So, kudos to Dennis Dodd for.
You might have had to find a new director of social media.
Right, because you would have just been like, I don't feel like doing this anymore.
I paid attention to these 17-year-olds and their offers from these schools. Like,
I'm not even going to do it for the large sums of money that I provide
the large
to you.
Sums of money, all those zeros.
Danko Joe, thank you as always. What a great interview with Coach Bishop. Missed that one. Miss a day, miss a lot. There's a lot of people that need to hear that. Thank you, sir.
Coach Bishop, he might have he's going up towards the top of my list of UC people I'd like to have a beer or two with.
He seems like a great dude. And guess what? They kind of have that it factor. Like they kind of look like a team you want to watch, that you're attracted to watch, that your eyes.
I as someone who's like, I went to one of the Houston. I think I went to the Houston game they actually lost. But you know me, and most people know, like I like the fact that they do things that the other teams get annoyed by. Like that's right up my alley. Just like my Tennessee Vols baseball team did a lot of things the last couple of years that annoyed the opponents, but when you're number one in the country, you can just kind of go, sorry, deal with it.
And Griffin Merritt got under a lot of people's skins last year too, didn't he? I still see Vandy fans still talk about him quite a bit.
They had daddy hats and like when you hit a home run, you put on a hat that said daddy on it, and then they had like these big mink coats almost that they would throw on the guy. Like, yeah, they turn it up a notch or two to kind of rub it in. But hey, I like that if you can back it up.
Right. Let's play the game, or the if game. If the ACC blew up, where would you play schools in the SEC, Big 10, and Big 12?
Are we going to do a draft?
I don't think that's realistic. I don't think they that's how this works.
No. It's not.
So Florida State and Clemson would be kind of the top of the list.
I do not agree. I
think North Carolina is the most valuable property.
I do too. I think North Carolina would be the fight, because it's a state that neither conference has a team in.
Yeah.
Like everybody defaults to Clemson and Florida State going to the SEC, and I'm just kind of like, why?
We've talked about that. Like I talked about it with the guys on the Big 12 Daily Show, the Big 12 Insider Show. I don't think the SEC opens their doors to Clemson.
I think the Big 10 and it's a big fight, but I think the Big Ten would do everything, and I think the SEC would too, but I think they would both fight tooth and nail for North Carolina. I think the Big Ten
and Virginia.
I think the Big Ten would probably want Virginia, but I think that they would also probably want Florida State. And then the SEC definitely would want Virginia. I just think North Carolina and Virginia are kind of the two that they would fight the most over. And they wouldn't be like downtrodden to take Florida State or Clemson, but I just think that's been the kind of a little bit of a throwaway thing, that just because they're more in the SEC region. I mean, regions don't matter anymore. Fucking Stanford's in the ACC.
Right.
So, like, that is a 20-year ago mindset of let's get more teams that are close. Like, that's out the window. Maryland and Rutgers are in the Big Ten with Nebraska. So you're going for who's helping us academically, who's helping us eyeballs wise, which one of these places has emerging population centers, and where can we go that we aren't already? Like, I don't like, how many more eyeballs are you gaining in Florida if you're the SEC if you add Florida State?
Yeah. So in terms of the Big 12, Dave, is there anybody, like, let's say hypothetically, the four big fish are the four that we've mentioned: Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia. Those don't end up in the Big 12.
Yeah.
I think that's a safe assumption.
You want to hear my harebrained idea?
Okay.
Duke and NC State.
So that's where I was going to kind of go.
Get the basketball, and then get never been like a great, but a very consistent, great fan base football program that fits very similar to like a lot of the football programs that you already have.
Yeah. You would say no. You would take Duke and NC State over Pitt and Louisville.
Definitely over Pitt. Pitt sucks. Nobody wants Pitt. Get it.
Pitt would just be the natural, like, partner to
I would
West
certainly
Virginia.
I would certainly want NC State and Duke over Pitt.
Okay.
If I'm Brett Yormark and the conference, like, as UC fan, well, yeah, I want Pitt and Louisville because those are old rivalries and easy games to go to.
Right.
But I'm looking at it as like, what would the conference want, not what does Cincinnati want, and what does West Virginia want.
Duke makes sense in the Yormark wants to be a national power basketball brand.
Right.
If you throw Duke in the mix with Arizona and Kansas and like, okay, now things are getting a little ridiculous. Like, finishing top 10 in the league means you finish top 25 in the country type deal.
Right.
That part would be interesting, what the Big 12 would want. Because I mean, you're already at 16. So you could go to 20. I mean, you could take Duke, NC State, Pitt, and West Virginia. Uh-oh. We lost Dave. Not good.
I don't know what happened.
You think he hit the exit button on accident?
Potentially.
Maybe Pickle might have done it. This might be a Pickle deal. Maybe Pickle was like, look, man, I had shots yesterday, and I need attention. Who
was ready to hop in.
Who would you take?
I certainly like the Duke selection. After that, that's where I think that I don't know that NC State is necessarily head and shoulders above Louisville. Louisville's got to get its shit together, and it's got to figure that out really quick because right now they're kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Whereas NC State is not. They have their ducks in a row currently, and especially coming after a Final Four appearance. And football is not anything standing on shaky ground or anything. So,
yeah. I mean, I think Duke's going to be okay in basketball. They're still getting great talent. Like they might not be elite like they were under Krzyzewski, but they're still going to be really, really, really good and really talented. As Shire, either figures things out or gets fired, one of the two. Dave said he thinks his internet went out. So,
well, that's not great for a show, but here we are.
Luckily, we're almost look, we were not going 2 hours tonight unless we had like a superstar guest. That was not happening this evening. Virginia Tech, Reed, I think they get left behind. I think they remain in whatever Syracuse, Boston College, Virginia Tech, probably Miami. We didn't get to Miami.
I think Miami would be fun.
Home?
If you take Duke and Miami, I think Miami would be fun. I'd almost be higher on Miami over NC State.
Yeah, I guess the problem with Miami is it's just there hasn't been a lot of substance to Miami over the past 15 years. A little bit more in basketball. Larinaga's done a good job there. I think he's an excellent coach. He's also in his mid-70s.
They've also done a lot since NIL started. They've made major pushes on guys.
Well,
whether it was clean money or not, that's neither here nor there.
I think that guy's about to go to jail. So
again, whether it's clean money or not, that's neither here nor there. I think anytime that you are running a
Ponzi scheme,
well,
never mind.
Bitcoin-esque venture, Miami coin or whatever, his my wallet or whatever it was, then that's a whole different conversation. But regardless, they've certainly been trying to make a push. Their issue is they're a relatively small school.
Very small.
All things
very
considered.
Small private school.
Yeah.
So I think people think of them as like a large public university.
I think you're right. But when you look at what they really are, and you find out that they are a private university that's got a very small alumni base, successful alumni base, but a small alumni base. You gotta figure out where that money's coming from if it's not going to be coming from this guy who, again, may or may not have clean money. We're discussing Miami, Dave.
Yeah, they're kind of in a tough spot. If something bad was going to happen, I don't think they're not going to be at the top of the list. I wouldn't think for either the Big Ten or the SEC, and I'm not sure they really fit with the Big 12. So
yeah, I'd agree.
Because how much bigger is the Big? I mean, how much bigger do the Big Ten and SEC really want to be? Like we talked about those four schools. Like those does this force the Notre Dame to decide? Because then that knocks one of those schools potentially down a peg too. Like if something truly happens, I think Notre Dame finally has to make a decision.
I think like if the ACC stays on, let's say hypothetically, the ACC
I
retains.
Guess they don't really. I mean, I think I beat that drum that that it doesn't really matter. I guess I don't know. I mean,
well, let me finish my thing. Let's say the ACC retains Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, Wake, Miami,
Virginia Tech. I think they're a sneaky one for the SEC too.
I don't. I think it's too small. It's too small.
I think if they don't get Virginia, I think they would be a sneaky one.
And then Stanford, Cal, they can't go anywhere. Like the ACC is locked into SMU for now until eternity.
But that's the thing. Like, how big does the Big Ten get? Would they want to then take Stanford?
But my question then becomes: does Notre Dame just look at it and say, "We're still going to get our like scheduling alliance, like 4 games or whatever every year"?
It's five football games. Yeah.
So we're still going to get that, and we're still going to get to host all of our
rivalry games.
Olympic sports priority.
Yeah.
No, I mean like
Oh yeah.
basketball, women's basketball. We're still going to get to host those all, and whatever the new iteration of the ACC looks like. I don't think you force their hand.
The only way that happens is if you go to just 2 big conferences, and then you have to be in.
And basically, if the Big Ten and the SEC say you're with us or you're out, then Notre Dame has to make a choice.
Yeah.
Until then, they really don't.
I'll let you guys carry on.
No, I
Miami's interesting. Would you take Miami over NC State, or you'd take NC State?
No, I'd still take NC State.
Yeah, I think there's – I just don't think – I think people here don't have a great understanding for, like, how important college sports is to that specific spot in the country.
Yeah.
Right? Like, now they've got pro sports, but they never did.
Raleigh, Winston-Salem, Durham, the triangle there. I mean, I would be very okay. I'm not going to be like saying I'd be like, yes, the Big 12 did something amazing, but like I would be very cool if that was what happened.
Well, and to your point, if this is a game of like warfare, essentially, it's a game of risk.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to take over and conquer territories.
It's taking properties. Yeah, these are properties that we look at them as teams, television, and the Brett Yormarks and Greg Sankey's look at them as properties. What property raises the value of my conference?
This might be one of my best analogies ever, that college sports has essentially just become a giant game of risk.
Yeah. Axes and allies. You could call it that board game with the Big Ten and the SEC.
Right. Well, guess what you do if you're the Big 12 and North Carolina, let's say, goes to the Big 10, okay? And then you jump in and you take Duke and NC State, the heart of the ACC is dead.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Dead. I mean, you basically just have Wake Forest left.
Right. And nobody gives a shit about Wake Forest.
And they're kind of the last. I mean, I think obviously Duke and North Carolina are on another level, but I think NC State, like with what they have with their basketball arena, the football stadium, might be the biggest stadium in the Big 12 after Texas and Oklahoma leave. I mean, it's in the 50, 60,000 range, I think. So, I mean, I think those would be excellent properties for the Big 12 to add if things ended up going down that road.
Yeah. All right, you got anything else?
Maybe we could have the Big 12 conference tournament in Greensboro just to rub it in their faces a little bit more.
I don't think it's ever leaving Kansas City.
No, and it shouldn't. But that's because here's the thing though. I mean, us old guys. Did you ever think the ACC tournament was going to leave Greensboro?
No.
And it did.
Anything can happen.
But no,
anything is possible.
Kansas City seems like an excellent spot for it. And, after I was at Heritage Bank twice in 1 week, I can tell you it's never coming there.
No, it's not. No, it's not. All right. Well, I think that about covers it for this week. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so.
I did get a text. Molly Alvey and Katrina Merriweather now locked in for the 513 day podcast. Monday, if you're catching up late. Monday, if you've been living under a rock all day. Monday, 513 day, May 13th. We will be doing a live stream from noon to 10 p.m. Confirmed voices from inside the athletic department: John Cunningham, Scott Satterfield, Wes Miller, Molly Alvey, Katrina Merriweather. We did, depending on how well they do this weekend, Jordan Bishel might be invited back after their series with BYU. Win the series, he can come on. Lose the series, we'll see. I'm going to be working for Dave to talk to Doug Martin, get Doug on here. Doug, obviously, a great friend of the network, great friend of the program. So hopefully have Doug on here, and then some student athletes mixed in throughout the day. I'll be here for most of it. Aaron will be here. Dave will be here. Keegan will be here. Brent will be here. Royer will be here. So it's going to be a heck of a day. We're going to have a lot of fun. We'll do hypotheticals with the chat. We'll take questions from the chat when we're not doing interviews.
Can we get our buddy Nico on?
Nico is coming on. Yes. Actually, I forgot. Nico
Excellent.
will be on at 4:00.
Well, maybe I can talk to Nico then, since he's usually on the BBP. Then
yeah, we might just let you and Nico chat for a while because you haven't had a show with Nico yet.
Yeah. We'll see if I can make that work.
I did. That's what that one. I was thinking head coaches, but that we do have Nico confirmed as well. We will have some players. We will have dignitaries from Cincy Reigns joining us. Jim Maring from the Holy Grail will join us as well to talk about some of the events that are coming up at the Grail. So it's going to be a massive, massive day. This is our last live show before that. So just wanted to get it in everybody's brain to make plans to have your entire Monday blocked off to spend it with us.
I do want to end on one quick note that I have noticed.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out, and I don't know all their names, but the ESPN Plus coverage of the UC baseball games, I think, has been very, very good.
Billy Hatcher?
I know Billy Hatcher, but then usually
Anthony,
and then there was one other guy in the game I was watching. I don't know if he's in there all the time as well, but I know we like to say things about ESPN Plus and whatnot and what it was and what it has been, but I think they've done a very, very good job with the just covering the game from a visual standpoint, but also the announcing that we've gotten has definitely brought made it even better to watch the game and certainly not detracted from it at all. It's been enjoyable.
Yes, I would agree. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up. 1 hour, 22 minutes, Dave. That
one of my most favorite shows ever.
Look, we're doing 10 hours on Monday, Dave. I don't know what the hell we're going to do next Wednesday. We'll figure it out. We'll see you next time. This is the BCJ Podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.